to the Dawgs podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs podcast. Josh All, your host today, and I've got Jake Burns with me from Browns Film Breakdown, and we're going to be talking about Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders based on the tape. And this is what Jake does. Jake is a trained eye on this kind of stuff. He breaks down the film on all these players. So to get his perspective on the two rookie quarterbacks, this is going to bring a lot of value because, you know, there's been so much arguments over, you know, why did they take Dillon Gabriel? Should they have taken Shedeur sooner? Should, you know, people think Shedeur should be automatic QB1 on the depth chart and all this kind of stuff. So we're going to get Jake's opinion on each of these quarterbacks, their traits, their strengths, their weaknesses, because they both got them. And we'll get it from his perspective. So Jake, how you doing today?
Josh, I'm great, man. Happy to be here. It is, that time of year where we're sort of still working through a bunch of mystery. We haven't had an OTA yet. And from this stuff, as you know, we get a bunch of, mixed reports and people want to identify who's going to be the, like, this is just a weird time on the football calendar where we don't know. I would say, Josh, this is the first time since it'd be 2017, right? With Deshaun Kaiser, where there's not a clear answer who's going to be the starting quarterback. And with that is a bunch of, I think fair banter about who's going to be, who's not going to be, and are the rookies going to start early, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, we won't really know anything until the summer, late summer there with training camp and preseason games, but it's nonetheless, I would say, intriguing, right? I think we're all rooted in like understanding that this is, it's not, there's talent in the room, but it's like, let's be realistic about where this is going and what it looks like. But it doesn't stop, even though we think that there's a hard line between maybe seeing this be a top 15 quarterback room, it doesn't mean it's any less intriguing. I think it's exciting for Browns fans to think maybe one of these two rookies could be the answer. And I think that is a welcome relief from this time last year, where I know on my shows and my website, I was breaking down, hey, was Deshaun Watson actually good in those games before he hurt his shoulder? What did that look like? And I think that is treading kind of carefully, because not everybody thinks about the same. It's a nice break from the trying to justify Deshaun Watson, trying to bring something to that just hasn't been there. So I am excited in that regard, Josh. I don't know if you feel the same, but I am welcoming new arms in the fold this offseason.
Just as a Browns fan at the base, anytime you get a rookie quarterback in the room, whenever there's ambiguity and there's no set starter, it's like, hey, this could be the guy. It's been like that for 30 years. But this year specifically with these two, and of course with Shedeur, because he's the most polarizing rookie probably we've ever had, and, come into the room. And I don't know about you, but, we just had rookie minicamp, and I legit have I didn't even know that there was a such thing as rookie minicamp stats, but apparently there is, and people are keeping track of stats at it's crazy, but it does speak to the...
This started with the Philadelphia beat reporter, Elliot Shore something, who does this every year, where he watches the Eagles minicamp, training camp, and keeps like a running list of completions and percentages. And it's kind of made fun of every year. But then there's now some folks who will be at practices covering it for their beat reporting job and will try to do this. And I would remind folks to ignore it, because periods of these practices are driven on experimentation, amping up the difficulty for quarterbacks, removing first read. Hey, this period we're going to do 3rd and 8s where we're trying to get to read 2. So come off your first, get to reads 2 and 3. There are just a bunch of variables that they try to flush out. So don't pay attention to that stuff. Like, obviously, if the noise is overwhelming in one direction, you sort of have to raise an eyebrow, is how I would put it. But I think for the most part, the patience is going to be hard, myself included, because I'll try to get to some of those training camp dates live and watch it with my own eyes. But the thing that'll tell us something is the preseason and those joint practices with, I think it's Carolina and Philly they're getting with. I could be off on that.
I think so.
Yeah, it's two of those 3 preseasons, but those are when the competition amps up a little bit. So yeah, I think again, Josh, like where I'm at with it is, and why I'm a little tempered on the two veterans is that like, I want to be in a world where they're giving opportunity to guys who could be the answer. I want to sort out if the answer is, inside of one of these guys, because we know they have 2 first-round picks looming in the next draft, and it's hard to make declarative statements on rookies after one season and justify it in that sense. But like everything I'm geared toward is like, okay, is this guy going to be the long-term answer? And that's why like I like Joe, and I like some of the elements he brings, and I do like how he will make the rest of the offense feel very involved. But on the same hand, this is the really tricky conversation that maybe we can get into, maybe we don't have time, but whatever. Like this roster is in a place where it has a bunch of veterans who want to win. Denzel's in the prime of his career. Miles in the prime of his career. Jerry Jeudy has reached that second contract prime of his career. There's a lot of guys, and Njoku and so on, and Joe Bitonio comes back another year. They want to win.
Mm-hmm.
They want to win right now, but they're also in this quarterback room situation where it's like, we need to solve this in a meaningful way for the next 15 years. But like, you can see how there's a juxtaposition there between where that room is potentially with where this roster wants to be right here, right now, because it's very tempting to be like, this is kind of a punt it season. Let's get the highest pick we can get. And maybe we get there, Josh. The schedule is really hard. You've covered it. I've covered it. It could happen organically, but like what you want to do is going into this year is you want to really compete. So it's like a difficult thing to navigate where the roster is with where the quarterback room is. And that's the decision that is most fascinating to me because, in these conversations that you and I are going to have about these 2 rookies, it is really rare for teams to start a 94th or 144th pick week 1. Like you have those outlier situations. Tony Romo gets hurt leading up to the season. Dak Prescott starts, and obviously we know what Dak became, right? Same thing with Russell Wilson, who comes in that same range and comes into a very veteran situation in Seattle and takes the reins there. But again, you're counting on one hand instances like that where it's panned out. So it would be extremely rare for that outcome to be in place. But that's not to say those guys don't start at some point or don't get a real chance at some point, because they're talented young players.
Yeah. And, as far as like punting on the season, we saw that last year whenever they said, we're not going to keep playing Jameis. We're going to play DTR. It didn't take very many snaps of DTR to say, yeah, they're not even being competitive is not the goal here. So I think with Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, I think you've already upgraded from DTR, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, but I really want to get into what you've seen on film from these 2 rookie quarterbacks that gives you encouragement for the season, that gives you some hesitation that fans need to be aware of, because like you said, it is a 3rd and a 5th round pick. It's not like we drafted a 1st round guy and a 2nd round guy and said, go compete for it. And it's like 2 high profile guys. Obviously Shedeur was high profile, but all the quarterback needy teams passed on him over and over and over. And maybe we can get your opinion at some point too, whether you feel that was more skill related or more, I don't know, Dion related or whatever the case may be. But, we'll dive into it. But why don't you just let everybody know real quick where they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can support you before we get into the film breakdown?
Yeah, that's fine. It's very simple. Browns Film Breakdown. That's the name of the website.com. And then that's the name of the podcast. So, our goal is to be a little different than most website-based angles where we're deep divey. We want to do film rooms. We want to do less news breaking, more analysis. So whether that's roster decisions, salary cap, or X and O's on the field, that's the goal of what we try to do. So, the angle, no, not really too dissimilar from what you're trying to do, Josh, is passionate Browns fans, love this team, think about them all the time. You're at work at your desk and you should be doing something else, but you're just trying to figure out which of these 2 rookies are these guys going to start. Let me go to the water cooler and ask my buddy. Those are the people that we want to come join us, because when you're passionate, you crave, you seek insight, you want to talk about it in an intelligent way. And we try to build that community. And I think we've done a nice job with that. So, You can find the pod, like I said, on any of those podcast mediums. And then obviously on the website through Substack, we have a good thing going with its own app and a bunch of cool developments. And then we're on all of the social avenues as well, Instagram, TikTok, and all that fun stuff too. So yeah, man, we're just looking to give Browns fans who want to know more about the game and try to talk as intelligently with people who care about it at the same level that they do, a chance to do that. So yeah, that's just kind of what we've been doing now for almost coming up on a year. It'll be a year in like August. I think we launched August 1. So yeah, man, we're happy with it and excited to see where it goes in year 2. Maybe with a little bit, a few more wins would make it more fun, right?
When the Browns are good, I know it's the way it is with our podcast too. The views, the engagement, the interaction is always higher. Toward the end of last season, it dropped off and unless we were talking about, hey, who could we get with the number 5 pick or whatever. But all right, anyway, let's dive into
playoffs, right? Yeah, that's the more fun stuff to hit on.
Way more fun. But
yep.
We'll shift over here now. We'll get your insight on these guys from a film perspective. So, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, I'm trying to figure out where the best place to start. Like, what would you say the biggest strength of each guy is, your takeaway from the film?
Yeah, I just wrote on this the best trait for each rookie across the board, and then I kind of covered the thing I'm most concerned about for each of them as well. I mean, with Shedeur, we'll start with Dillon because he's picked first, whatever. Ball placement to me is a thing I think he has a very keen understanding of and applies it correctly, whether that's, a ball up the seam where you're shielding a guy from a safety, maybe you're looking off, coming back, putting a guy on his back shoulder. So he's like, again, not taking the brunt of a nasty hit. He can get down and protect his body, whether that's a speed out or a cross field hitch or a cross field comeback or a dig. He has a really good ability. It's a consistent ability, in my opinion, to put the football in the place that his guy can get it only, or that he can create after the catch. So he throws a very catchable. I know it's left-handed and that spin's going to be a little different for some guys, but it's a very catchable ball. And I think the tempo of the throws is good. It's not on top of you too quick when you're in the shallow portions of the field, but it's also got enough arm to go cross field and be on time. So I like the placement of the football. His ball placement accuracy stuff is a strong point for me. For Shedeur, I think the thing that I like the most is how comfortable he is inside of chaos. So, if a guy is jittery, if a guy is uncomfortable inside the pocket, he creates his own pressure rolling out kind of against maybe like phantom situations where, hey man, there's no reason to leave the pocket to the right. Something Baker Mayfield battled early in his career.
Yep.
Was kind of rolling to the right too often. And then you get out of the pocket and you create your own pressure because your O-line doesn't know where you're going to be. So I think he's got a very, and I kind of place this with the caveat of like that Colorado offense was Shedeur driven, period. Like they didn't do well in the run game. They didn't mirror their run and pass well to give him deception-based looks that created easy throws. Now there were some screens and stuff that helped get it out of his hands quickly, but as far as opening up downfield alleys, they're just, from an X and O standpoint, were not enough opportunities to make things easier for him. Now he's got Travis Hunter at that level, which is nice, and Jimmy Horn is a nice player, and they got nice, LaJonte Webster. They had nice players around him at the wide receiver. There was skill, but like the offense was basically you get it where it needs to go. We're going to drop you from the gun 3-5 and let you figure it out. And it was just a lot because defensive linemen were teeing off. There was very little deception in terms of like linebackers punching out and playing underneath intermediate routes. DBs didn't have to worry about fitting run very often because the first two levels. So my theory here is like he was doing a lot, and I thought he was, even in the midst of when things weren't going well or when, there's just a lot of predictability in what they were doing, his comfort inside the pocket and delivering a football, making throws in chaos, it's really good. I like that because you can't really teach that. You can either do that or you can't. And I think that's a huge part of what he's really good at. On the flip side, and this is where I think for Dillon, the thing that I'm most concerned about is how he navigates the height, because he, it's interesting. Russell Wilson comes in the league, a fantastic athlete, no doubt about that. But he really only lived up the sidelines. He really lived outside the hash marks. It really has become a running joke even into last year with Pittsburgh. He just doesn't really throw the middle of the field very often on straight drops. Now you come off play action, you boot, or you get a, flash fake to 7-step drop, and you can find those every now and again. But if you look at his heat chart of where he's throwing the football, it's a lot outside the numbers. And he's a creator, very athletic. That's how he lived. Dillon, as far as college goes, whether it was at UCF, Oklahoma, or Oregon, he will throw the football over the middle of the field. He uses the things that you would think for a guy who's pushing 6 feet, 5'11" and change, who is, from a physical standpoint, pretty much in the 10th percentile of every one of them. He is a pretty good athlete. He can run. He is very smart in terms of figuring out when to run. And he sneaks, again, this is the old cliche, but he sneaks up on you. He can move better than people anticipate. So he was a plus part of their running game. So all of that is nice. I think there's a lot of things, like I said a minute ago, between the arm is live, it can get it where it needs to go. The anticipation is good. The ball placement is what I like the most. It's just a matter of, in college, you can live in the middle of the field in a more easier sense because the athletes aren't quite as, now they're big. Big Ten boys are big, and he saw SEC guys too. It's not like these guys at D1 level are small, but the NFL athletes are bigger, they're faster, and those hash marks get tighter. And when the hash marks get tighter, everything condenses, the pocket's tighter, the windows are smaller, the anticipation needs notched up a little bit. And I think if there's folks who told you the height didn't matter at Oregon, didn't come up, I think that's a lie. I think there are times, and I showed this in the film room I did on him, where there are some times where, Josh, say they're bringing 2 off a side, the pocket's condensing, and he has an answer from number 3 in the slot that he just can't see it in time. Maybe the guard blocking the defensive tackle just blocks his vision a little bit, right? And he doesn't quite slide over to the window and find it. So there are times where on tape, he either doesn't see a player at the second or third level, or he can't find an answer in time that he needs to find. And I know I played small school ball, so this is not even remotely trying to say it's similar. But when, I'm right at 6 foot, and there you have to live in windows. So you have to live, and sometimes taller quarterbacks have to do this too, where you everything's barreling down on you. And if you have guys barreling down on you, you don't necessarily see it the way you need to see it to find that answer, right? So, I'm pretty convinced that Dillon can do a lot of things at an NFL Brock Purdy-like level. He can do it. But how good is he going to be at mitigating blind spots on the field? How can he, and Drew Brees did this, was a huge part of Drew Brees' game. If you watch some really cool documentaries on him, he would do these drills in the offseason where he would have to find windows to throw the football. That's what you have to do as a shorter quarterback. The pass protection does their thing, and then those directions the guys are moving, you have to be able to adjust based on defensive line movement, et cetera, to find those windows in the pocket to throw. Because you just can't. I mean, Drew's 6 foot, and every lineman's 6'4" above.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's physics, guys. So you have to find windows to throw, and you also have to know when at times you're looking down the field and maybe 20% of it is blind because you just can't see it. So you have to be a really a very sharp pre-snap to post-snap player who knows where the defense is very, very, very likely to be and find your windows of vision. For Dillon, it comes down to, can he do it? Can he do that consistently enough to overcome the stature disability? It's not a disability. It's just it's a challenge. So if he can do that, if he can navigate that the way he did at Oregon and Oklahoma the 2 seasons prior, he has a chance to be a nice quarterback. I think the Browns like him because they believe in the arm, they believe in the person, they believe in his ability to adapt to offenses and find answers. And he's very smart. He's played in multiple college systems and found a ton of success. I have no doubt that people follow him as a leader. I have no doubt that he's athletic enough to handle the position and moving and rolling and getting out of the pocket, creating some first downs with his legs. But like, it just comes down to how well he sees the field at that stature and keeps the offense on time and keeps the offense in a place that, you know, is limiting turnover worthy plays. Because I'm just like, it's kind of like being a small NBA guard. These guys you got to have something that helps you overcome being 6'1", right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 6'3", like Steph Curry or Derrick Rose at that same. You know, are you explosive, jump out of the gym? That helps you. Like, you know, Steph is a generational shooter. If you're going to do this, Brock Purdy is a great piece of film to watch on a guy who's a little shorter, figuring it out. He plays with a ton of anticipation, and he plays with the ability to get out of some uncomfortable situations in the pocket. And I think Dillon has, I know, I'm not saying for a fact, I'm going to be careful, but they liken him to him as a left-handed version of him, that they think this offense, going back to how Kevin plays, and create similar opportunities for him to find success.
Yeah.
They think he's the same leader. They think he's the same type of guy. We'll see if that dice roll works out. You got to be able to run it well. I'll tell you that. You better be able to run it well, and you better create situations where you're minimizing the third and pass as much as you can. That's what the 49ers did early for Brock. It's starting to reap benefits where he's getting better and better, and he's able to create for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's Dillon.
This episode is sponsored by Southern New Hampshire University. Browns fans, I can't tell you guys how many people I've known over the years who have missed out on job opportunities simply because they don't have the right degree or even have a degree at all. I mean, these are people who otherwise would have been perfect for the position they wanted, but they got turned away simply because of educational requirements. If you've ever felt stuck in a job you didn't enjoy, or you felt unqualified or unable to advance your career due to your lack of education or experience, heck, maybe you even have a degree, but now you feel like you chose the wrong major, Southern New Hampshire University could be the answer for you. Go to snhu.edu/bark, B-A-R-K, to learn how you can get started today. SNHU has programs in psychology, cybersecurity, computer science, sports management, game development, data analytics, and finance. SNHU is one of the largest online accredited universities in the United States, and their programs are radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. And you might even be eligible for financial aid or have prior college credits that could fast track your degree at SNHU. And because networking is everything, your courses are taught by faculty with real world experience, so you'll have opportunities to connect with people inside the industry. And then when you graduate, SNHU will still be there to help you as you begin your job search. So if you're ready for something new, head over to snhu.edu/bark and learn how you can get started working toward your new career today. The height with him, you know, and I keep talking to people about this all the time. We talk about a ton on the podcast. It's not, you can't just discard it. I mean, it's there. It is a concern, you know, for people, it's a concern. I think it's more concerning for fans who aren't as used to seeing a 5'11" quarterback. Whenever we've got 6'2", 6'3", you know, Joe Flacco's 6'6" or whatever, watching these taller guys out there play football. But I keep reminding people that for Dillon Gabriel, he's not just now learning how to play quarterback at 5'11". He's been doing it for years, and he's been doing it at a high level. So he understands how to navigate his height at the college level. You're right. Does it translate to the NFL and everything? But he's not alone. Drew Brees, like you mentioned, is the high level example of a shorter quarterback who learned how to navigate those throwing windows. Russell Wilson, but we've also got like Kyler Murray, we've got Bryce Young, who were both number one overall picks, and they're 5'10". So we have examples of this working in the NFL. It's just like you said, can he do it? Can he consistently find those windows and create his throwing lanes?
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm uncomfortable with for him figuring it out is just you got to see a guy do it. You really got to see a guy do it, and like with him, I think there's a little bit of concern over that being a thing. You know, like you'd ask yourself, well, hey, Baker's like 6 foot and some change. How is he the first overall pick? Well, Baker had a really good arm. There's no doubt about that. And it was much stronger than the arm that Dillon had. But as far as like Dillon making the throws, it's a wide range of things here, man, where like, you know, Baker's the first pick and Brock Purdy's the last pick in a draft. And what's that different between the two? It's not that different. Baker's arm, very impressive in person. These guys, not quite as impressive, but it doesn't mean you can't get the job done. Brock Purdy got a $256 million contract the other day. Baker doesn't have that yet, even though he's playing much better, still doesn't have that yet. So just because Dillon's pick 94 doesn't determine whether he can or can't do it. It's just the risk factor and the belief the franchise has that he can do it, right? So the Browns are understanding the odds are against him. They're understanding a little bit of where he's come from. Shotgun dense offenses, spread it out, a lot of quick throws. But there is also enough example from his tape of NFL style front side to back side, sort it out, find it, sit in the pocket chaos, and deliver the football. So I see the appeal. I see why they like him. And again, I would just say the best outcome is that he is a left-handed version of what Brock has done for San Francisco, which could happen here. So again, though, get him in the system and see how he handles it, because you never know how these guys are going to handle I think people underrate significantly how much more challenging it is to go from the wider hash marks to the most narrow hash mark possible, which just condenses all of those looks in college where you can really get 3-by-1 looks, very wide, pull linebackers out of the box. It forces teams at the college level to take an extra defensive lineman off the field. The windows are bigger because the field allows the windows to be bigger, and you just don't get as much of that. And although the field's still 53 and some change lateral, that doesn't change. If guys cover ground faster and if guys are bigger, it makes everything combined with the hash marks feel like it's on top of you. So the experiment is, and what I know they're sorting out, is how well can he navigate tighter space, faster decisions, and needing to get the football from A to B with anticipation and window seeking. We'll see, man. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, and I know so much of playing quarterback at any level, but especially the NFL. When we look at prospects, it's, this guy's got a cannon arm, or this guy's elite athleticism, and all this kind of stuff. How do you process information when you break the huddle and walk up to the line and then from the snap on? Because, whether you got the cannon arm or not doesn't really mean diddly squat if you can't process information. I mean, or your height, for instance. Like I saw Brock Osweiler at 6'8" not be able to play quarterback in the NFL. And so height is not the only determining factor. So much is mental. And, are you processing the defense? Are you reading the looks that they're giving you ahead of time? Kind of making some decisions before the snap and then reading real quick and knowing exactly where you're going to go with the ball and get it there on time.
100%. I mean, you think of it this way. It's like, again, I think the guard comparison for the NBA is pretty apt. Like, it just makes the game harder when you're smaller because of everything that you have to sort through. Whereas, to the point you just made, a guy like Brock Osweiler, a guy like Joe Flacco, and those bigger guys have that ability to see over things and create more field vision. Put it that way. Create more field vision, which can make the game easier to quickly process decisions, right? Doesn't mean a short guy can't do it, but it does mean that they better know the defense they're facing as in and out as possible, right? They better be able to anticipate windows. They better be able to know what a defense looks like pre-snap to post-snap, what they like to do. Hey, they like to be in single high shell, and they like to rotate off of it. They like to be in two high, rotate to cover 6, like to be in single high, rotate down that field side safety and come down and play the box and man cover. Like, they got to know that stuff. And like, there can be no gray area. So like, I just think it's like, and Purdy's facing this too, and all of the shorter guys over the years, Kyler is in the same boat amongst others, is your sense, your other things have to be amplified. They have to be able to be, in a really good place with the anticipation, the throw strength, the ability to move. And there's enough there to see the vision. Does it work out? I don't know. It's the 94th pick. We'll see. But I understand their decision to give this a whirl, because from everything you gather, he's a pretty smart dude. He understands the game really cleanly, and all of the elements that surround what a quarterback needs to do, he seems to handle it pretty well. So are you telling me he's that much different as a prospect to Tua Tagovailoa? I don't think so. I don't think it's that much different. So, it could ultimately be, we look back on this in a couple years, 3-4 years, and be like, how did everybody miss on this guy who was super productive in college, a ton of snaps, a ton of games, a ton of production. That's the hope here, Josh. I mean, that's the home run is that you get that Brock Purdy version or a version of Tua who's very point guard based and is getting the football out and on time and anticipating. So, that's where I'm at with it, man. It's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. It's the thing I'm looking forward to the most.
So based on what you saw on film with Dillon Gabriel, though, does it make, do you understand now why they took him at 94? Was it a good pick? Should they have waited a little bit longer? Or after you broke down, the tape after they took him, was it like, oh yeah, okay, I see why they did this and it's probably good they took him where they did?
I mean, I see the parts that they like, right? I think you got a guy who can get out and throw on the run, who is meticulous, I think, about his craft to the point that they feel like he will master the under center concepts that they want him to do. He worked the middle of the field far better than I anticipated he did collectively across that year at Oregon. And he throws hash to wide side with enough arm strength to get it where it needs to be. Throws a catchable deep ball. I think all the elements that they would like are there, right? He plays with some anticipation. He hunts out windows. He can throw when things are barreling down on him. There's a really great example from, although that Rose Bowl went sideways for Oregon, he made a ton of plays for an offense that was really stuck in the mud against that unique Ohio State approach with Caleb Downs kind of playing that invert too, the way they were playing it. And he made enough really good plays. And there's like I said, a great example I posted, and I think I even put it on social, of him working front side to a backside dig where pocket stuff is just on top of him. And you can just see his arm release the football over the defensive line. It's just in the perfect place too. So there's enough of that there that I think I'm watching the film. Like, I see why they like him. He's got a lot of the traits that Kevin has preferred in his quarterbacks that have found success for him. So I get it. I think they were probably nervous about some other team liking him enough that they didn't feel like, what was it, 122 or something like that for Dylan Sampson, that they just didn't trust that he would be there, and they wanted to make it happen. I mean, it's clear from him, you watch Dillon Gabriel's pre-draft videos that are out there, he kind of thought that was the range they might take him to. So, yeah, man. I mean, we all ask these questions about some quarterbacks who figure it out, right? And play successful ball. And you're asking yourself, well, and how did the entire league pass on Purdy and figure it out in the 49? It just can happen, right? It just can happen. So, just because it's the Browns doesn't mean you hand wave it away that this could be a guy that can work for them. And I do see the traits and the way he plays the game and how he tries to distribute the football being a potentially fruitful answer for them. So I think a lot of people want to believe it's Shedeur, and it could be. It really could be. I mean, I had a higher grade on Shedeur, but there's just more to it than what you see on tape. And that's the analysis part that I think people miss, is that there's a lot to that position that you don't get from watching them play college football. There's a whole person behind that helmet. There's how do they handle a bunch of those elements? So yeah, that's why I'm very open-minded to seeing what Dillon can do.
Well, let's talk about Shedeur then, because, speaking of guys that got passed on by a ton of teams, I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the pod. I think I said the top 6 quarterback needy teams all passed on Shedeur Sanders multiple times. And, even the team that ended up taking him. So what was it about Shedeur? You kind of already hit on his cool and the, calm in the chaos, kind of one of his top strengths. Let's start off with, what did you see on film that concerned you or was a weakness of Shedeur? And then we'll just kind of talk about him overall.
Yeah. The stuff that concerned me was being on time all the time. I think there were some times where he would try to hunt downfield plays that ended up causing him to drift in the pocket or try to escape and play some backyard football at times and created negatives that didn't need to be created. Now, I think he's a really accurate thrower of the ball. I think he's the arm is good enough at the NFL level. I don't think it's elite, but I think it's good enough. And I do think he's willing to process it front side to backside and try to find answers. But I think the thing that I noted was that, hey, can he avoid negatives? Can he consistently play on time? So Shedeur has pretty consistently been the best quarterback he's ever been around, right? I think there's a little bit from Shedeur of whether it's high school ball or Jackson State, And obviously at Colorado, if he ain't making the play, no one's making it, right? If he's not doing this, if he's not putting it where it needs to go, like he has not lived inside of a football world where he's just a part of the process. I think he's very much been, and this is not to say it's a negative per se, but he's been the focal point of everything under his dad, where he's been in the belief that he is, the best quarterback in a class, et cetera, et cetera. So like if Shedeur's talents were transcendent in the mold that, I don't know, and I'm not even saying Cam Ward's tools were that, but I'm like, think of like Trevor Lawrence coming out or some of these others that have been first picks. It's like, if that were the case, the physical stature, and he was say 6'5", and he was, God-given electric arm, and the concerns that caused him to slip to the 5th round wouldn't have mattered. Someone would have taken him early. Browns would have probably taken him second, right? We'll overcome all that because the tools are just ridiculous. I think the tools are relatively average. He's an average athlete. I think Dillon Gabriel, probably neither of them tested, but I think Dillon he would have tested better. I think he's a better athlete as far as moving, running, and changing direction. So Shedeur's, and I'm not saying Shedeur can't move. He's not slow. He's just not he's not great. It's an average athlete with an average arm, and at times at Colorado put some bad habits on tape. Now, I had a late first, early second round grade on him because I feel like the collective nature of his tools paired with how he processes information and plays with some calm showed me a guy that I would take a risk on, right? Trying to figure this out. Can he be the guy, right? I'm okay with the 33rd pick being a quarterback. You're taking a swing on a second rounder. I liked enough of what he did to feel like he could do it. Now, the problem is, it sounds like every part of the pre-draft was rough. He didn't give teams a good look at who he is or what he can do. And I think it's pretty obvious that if these things were as rough in the interview process as we have heard, that it's easy to see why he fell. Nobody's in love with the tools to that degree, right? I think some second round teams would have been in on him or maybe moving up if he was unbelievable interview, came in prepared, crushed interviews, all of that. Like, I do think that there's probably a team in the late first in the Jackson Dart mold or second round that takes him. But if things go really rough, we don't know. We don't have an idea of who Shedeur is away from his dad because his dad's going to all the interviews. We don't have an idea of how smart he is because he wouldn't get on a whiteboard with us because he thought he was going early in the draft. Like some of those things that you heard about, and this is not to knock Baker, but there were a lot of things around Baker around like, hey, the teams in the 13th overall pick didn't send him a playbook. They sent him a playbook. He didn't want it because I'm going earlier, right? You can do all that when it's a lock and when it's like that, but that's the dangerous world they're dancing in. And hire an agent. That's a different thing. The dad is a huge part of things. That's a different, it's not what I'm getting at is you don't have to squint hard to see why NFL teams were turned off, right? Doesn't take much, but I do think that he has the tools to be, a functional part of an offense that he is not the main focal point. Same with Dillon. I don't think either of these guys, as obviously as that is, think about again, going back to, I hate to go back to Purdy, but you're looking at like, hey, give me some examples of guys who are mid to late round quarterbacks who started, found success. The 49ers, super veteran oriented, great defense, great run game, made it easy for him, play action, big tight end, some nice wide receiver threats. The Browns, I think, view themselves in a similar vein. We have a good defense. We have a good structure offensively. We're going to place and make it easy on these. If either of these two guys can show they can master the verbiage of the offense, they can master checks at the line of scrimmage, they can master the huddle. If they can show they can do that, I do think the structure around them offensively can be conducive for a young guy coming in, stepping on the field and showing he can keep a group on schedule and kind of push the ball down. Like Purdy started like 5 games his rookie year, played in 9 total. As I was looking at it the other day, he still threw for like 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So it's not impossible here. Teams want to believe that these guys, but when they get their chance, are they ready to do so? For Shedeur and what you're looking at, paying attention to in this early portion is how well does he, it's the old Kevin Love, LeBron goofiness. Like, does he fit in or does he try to fit out? Right. Like if he can be just a part of this offense and be a low maintenance piece of guiding, directing, distributing, he can be an answer. He's got a live arm enough at the NFL level. He's got the processing, I think, can be fine. I think there's a lot of he's very well-rounded. May not be elite in any one category, but he's well-rounded. So if he can continue to stay on script, on schedule, on time, avoid negative plays, as we know, who gets paid in the NFL? Quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles, defensive linemen, and corners. People who stop the passing game and people who stop the quarterback. Mm-hmm. If you can't take sacks, you can't take ugly sacks in the NFL. It's a death sentence. So he can't take negatives. So can he speed up his mental to get the football out where it needs to get and avoid taking negative plays, throw the football into the first row, that kind of stuff? I need to see it. It's the same thing with Dillon, where I think they're capable enough to do this, but I need to see how it looks inside of the structure. It's clear the Browns are trying to 49ers this thing from that year where we have a good defense. We have all the elements on offense, a couple tight ends now we feel good about. We know one of them's really damn good. We got a couple good receivers we feel good about to play, a significant amount of 12 personnel, but also we think Deontay Johnson can come in and separate, play a little 13 personnel. We got 2 running backs in this draft. Think about, again, how rare it is to see some teams do the things they're doing. The Browns, you don't see teams pick 2 running backs in the same draft with that sort of, not a second rounder and a 7th, but a 2nd and a 4th.
Yeah.
They're going to try to run the hell out of the football and make whoever is playing quarterback have the easiest approach to the position. So, yeah, man, I think that's why it's possible one of these young guys can do it. And I think, again, they're looking for somebody who can just keep things moving in a good direction, stay on time, navigate. They're not asking to do what Deshaun Watson has been trying to get the Browns to do and obviously got them to do last year, which was make him drive the bus. They want to make the quarterback just be a guy sitting in the middle of that bus, just doing their role and make it as easy for them as they can. So, there's a larger conversation, Josh, about what are they trying to create here with the 4 quarterbacks? Because I think a lot of folks are look at these 26 quarterbacks. They can draft one. They can, and that might ultimately be an outcome, but this roster is not in a spot where Joel's returning and some of these Miles is extending. And Grant is older on a second contract. Denzel is older on a second. It's not a punt the season thing here. They want to find lightning in a bottle with one of these 4 quarterbacks that can make it as easy as possible. And for those guys, whoever's back under center. And then the part of it that is the backup plan is, if this goes horrifically and none of them sort it out and give us decent play, and maybe we have the 15th pick, and we're hoping the Jags are bad and we can couple those up with a top 5, move into the top 5 with the team that doesn't need a quarterback, give them 2 first-round picks and take a swing on a 26 guy if we want to. So I think they're trying to live in 2 worlds here. I haven't really dug into this on my own pod, but I think that's what's going on organizationally is, hey, we got a chance with a fun group of veterans and a chance to, one of these guys, Kenny Pickett could be the guy too, can come in and navigate and keep us on schedule and keep the offense moving, make the simple throws. We think we can win 9 games, 10 games. And if that happens, hell yeah, maybe we got an answer here, Josh. But if not, let's have this other backup plan in place that we can hunt out a bigger name if we feel so inclined.
This episode is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, whether you're grilling with your dad or the kids are grilling with you, there is nothing like grilling out for Father's Day in the backyard. When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. We all know dads want steak. A recent survey actually shows 75% of Americans agree there is no better way to spend Father's Day than grilling with the family. So shop omahasteaks.com and give Dad the legendary Heartland quality that he deserves. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code BARK, B-A-R-K, at checkout. I get my dad Omaha Steaks every single year for Father's Day, and now that I'm a dad too, that's what I'm looking for Father's Day. Because Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their unconditional 100% money-back guarantee. So this Father's Day, give Dad the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for guaranteed perfect perfect gifts that deliver legendary quality, and for an extra $35 off, use promo code BARK, B-A-R-K, at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, and an extra $35 off with promo code BARK at checkout. See site for details. Yeah, and you keep bringing up Brock Purdy and the 49ers as an example, and I can just hear right now a lot of, fans out there and people listening to this are going to say, oh, the Browns, and the Browns get poo-pooed on a lot, and last year was a catastrophe. But we tried to do things, like you mentioned, so different last year, so out of, what Kevin Stefanski likes to do to try to get Deshaun Watson to work. It was all hands on deck, just we're desperate to get this to work, and it didn't. But what we've seen from Kevin Stefanski ever since he came here at 2020 is a competent offense, a competitive offense, as long as you've got competent quarterback play. That's all it takes. And I think you were on our show maybe last year or the year before talking about this. Like, Kevin Stefanski's offense, like you just mentioned too, tries to minimize the role of the quarterback to make it as easy for him, minimize the quarterback's weaknesses and all that kind of stuff, which is exactly what the 49ers are good at doing with Brock Purdy. I mean, Kevin got the best quarterback play out of an uninjured Baker Mayfield up until recent years. I mean, that was Baker's best showing was with Kevin. And then Jacoby Brissett was like, wow, this guy he got the most out of Jacoby. He got the most out of like PJ Walker, for crying out loud. I mean, if you can run Kevin Stefanski's offense, he can help you be successful, but they have to run it, Josh. They have to run. The best things that he has done here is when they have had a successful early down run game. Right. And that is clearly something that, as I watched last year and the year before, now the year before was when you didn't have the expectation Nick was going to have a destructive knee injury. So I get it. But then last year, I don't think they prepared well enough and committed the resources enough to solve that. It is clear to me above all else, the hiring of Mike Bloomgren and what he's done traditionally in his early NFL years, what he did at Stanford and when they found their success and what he tried to do at Rice is, okay, this looks like they're going to commit to this certain specific style of run, and they understand the importance of getting this in a better place. And then they draft two guys. Right. They're going to run the football a lot. And they should. And ball control, time management, keeping the other offense off the field is the recipe. And it just comes down to how well they can run it to make life around whoever's under center as easy as possible. Because right now they don't have a guy they can win because of. Right. And right now we could even question if they have a guy they can win with. But what you have to do to have a guy that can win with is have all the elements in a place that matter to give them a chance to win with. So we'll see if they can find a win with quarterback and have it the past few years, right? So if you can find that win with quarterback, maybe you make it so easy on them for a period of time, they end up becoming the win because of guy, right? That's what you're hoping. But if not, like I said, you get hungry and you like the idea of taking a swing on a guy in a bit more of a, at least preseason here. We'll see what the college season gives us, but we think it's got a chance to be a deeper collective quarterback class next year. So I like that. I like the position they're in to try to do both things here. For sure. And, again, with the 49ers example, you speak of they thought they were getting a quarterback. They wanted to try to go get a quarterback that you could win because of. And that's why they traded everything they did to go get Trey Lance. He had the cannon arm. He had the athleticism. He had the size, 6'5", 230 or whatever he was. Like he had the tools that you've been talking about, but it just didn't work out. And then they found Brock Purdy and they're like, well, we can win with this guy. And ultimately, who gets the job? Who gets the $265 million contract? It's the guy you can win with because, like you said, you had all those other things in place. And, last year, I don't think running the ball was even on the table when they hired Ken Dorsey because that offense, wasn't it like a 70-30 split pass run? It's like, ultimately got to the point they were down in a lot of games. They had to throw, but even their neutral situations were not clean to the point that they could run with any. They had no identity in how they were trying. And Joel and Wyatt and some of the other veterans spoke on this. They, between what was going on with whatever the hell Andy Dickerson was doing and like Roy Estevan being around it. And like, it felt like that offensive line, the cohesion between the vision of what they wanted to be offensively. And this kind of harkens back to what you hear about how the Bills went sour on Dorsey, is that there was just the connective tissue between all the rooms, understanding the goal and what they were trying to, it just never met the standard. So
I'm cautiously optimistic, maybe more so than a lot of others, around the idea that like this offense was cataclysmically bad last year. One of the worst offenses we've seen in the better part of 2 decades. The way they're approaching it this year, it's hard to envision it being that again.
Right.
The resources committed, the idea philosophically and the coaching staff all points in a much better direction. It doesn't guarantee results because you still need one of these 4 quarterbacks to give you something meaningful, but the collectiveness of everybody understanding how we prop up the quarterback, I think is and their general identity of how they want to move the ball, I think we'll be in a better spot. And that's why I've got some, again, can they be the 20th best offense this year? That's a giant step in the right direction. And that's kind of what you have to lay it out incrementally like that. And I think that's where you can start to get a little like, okay, I see some of the vision here.
Yeah. It goes back to 2023. I mean, we were not any impressive offense when we were running out there with PJ Walker or DTR, but we were still able to win games because the offense did what it needed to do to give the defense the ability to shut down the opposing, team. And it worked, and we won games that way. So I think the offense can be better this year than what it was with PJ Walker, DTR, whatever. So, looking at these 2 rookie quarterbacks, I know they were 3rd round, 5th round, but like you said, you did have like a late 1st, early 2nd round grade on Shedeur. Anyway, the Browns got 2 super productive quarterbacks from college. I mean, very accurate, and obviously they can process information and do things very well to win ball games. And I feel like that bodes well for our chances to get one of these guys to at least show that they can be an adequate starter. Hopefully as soon as this year and early on if we can, because I know there's a lot of debate back and forth. Should the Browns start Joe Flacco, go out there and try to win games with a veteran quarterback, or do they need to find out what they have in these rookies? And I see it from both sides. I really do, because we do have those 2 first-round picks next year. Can we use those on an offensive lineman and a safety or a cornerback or a top-end wide receiver, whatever it might be? Or do we have to use those on a quarterback? We need to get that information this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I think you can at least see the vision for what they're trying to do for helping make this as easy as it can be for a quarterback. Again, like, hey, let's add a second tight end weapon so that we can be in more dense personnel and get more linebackers on the field. Maybe they wanted to add a bigger name than what ultimately came with Deontay Johnson, but you like Cedric, you like Jerry, and you feel like offensively it's in a pretty good spot for a young quarterback. I think if the rookie backs are who I think they can be, the resources committed to that position, the resources committed up front from both a coaching and Joel coming back and the veterans in that group. You have 4 positions with guys, Jack, Wyatt, Joel, and Ethan, whose reputations are a bit on the line this season, right? People are writing them off. These guys are done. And they've been with the Browns for like 5 years, which is really rare to have that much continuity between 4 of your 5 guys. And I like, the veteran addition, swing tackle there with Lucas, who could do both. And we'll see what DeJuan Jones turns into. I mean, I think they would have liked to have been able to land a tackle in the draft, but the late run there on Simmons and Connerly really kind of shook the plans a little bit. But ultimately it lands. We think we can get it done with these guys. We think we can get, a run game moving in the right direction, significantly more backfield talent. We can make a lot of play action work, a lot of run action, play action, quick throw game, that we think we can find a way to make this work as we bring somebody into the fold to make that life. Because even Joe Flacco, who has been around it and has made a ton of big throws in the past 3 or 4 years, but he needs to have his role minimized. He doesn't need to be driving this thing. We saw how, it's pretty obvious that Joe is prone to, late career mistakes and stuff. So I am a believer that a young guy or a veteran guy kind of stepping into it can guide this thing, because it is clear to me that they are minimizing as much as they can how much the offense depends on the quarterback. Some stuff you can't avoid, like, 3rd and 7, we got to throw it. there's stuff there you can't always avoid, but you can avoid the volume of those scenarios, right? So I think that's what that to me is the only plan they had because of the scenario, and there's a chance it could work for one of these guys. So yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I really like about the two rookies, they brought in two guys who are great leaders. They're known competitors, and they work hard, they grind, they studied. They're going to put in the work, and then hopefully that leads to the results you're looking for on the field. But it's I keep seeing people say, oh, they went Johnny Manziel again with some of this stuff. It's like no, we're not doing anything like that. Where we're bringing in a guy who isn't taking this seriously, or he doesn't know how to work, he doesn't know how to put in the time or watch the tape or prep. Like these guys are going to be good at that.
It seems like it, right? I mean, you kind of get some of the stuff with Shedeur. He definitely seems prepared. I think it probably boiled down to more than anything else an arrogance thing with him in the process, and the backward nature of his no agent approach and some of that stuff. But I have no reason to believe he isn't working hard. I have no reason to believe he isn't going to put the tape study in. And same for Dillon. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise at this point. So yeah, man. I mean, I see the appeal to what they're trying to do with those young guys. And the thing I like above all else, Josh, though, is that they played a lot of ball.
Yes.
They played a lot of college snaps, and guys who come in early and find success, it is those guys who have a lot of experience. And because again, Shedeur has seen different offensive coordinators and between Jackson State and obviously in Colorado. And he's learned new systems and new ways of thinking about offense. We obviously know that Dillon has seen several new offenses. So it's not something that they're uncomfortable with, where they go to college, they have the same OC for 3 years. They've done things one way their entire career. And that's something that we'll see how Jackson Dart handles it, right? He's never been away from Lane Kiffin in a serious way. He's never been away from their gun, clap approach. Like, there's just a lot, man. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of protection adjustments. There's a lot of on the fly, in the huddle, long play calls in the huddle, navigating all of that at the line of scrimmage, barking out cadences, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So, but the thing you like is that both of these guys have seen a lot of ball. They've seen a lot of ways to view quarterback play, a lot of ways to view offensive cohesion. And that's a reason that you should be encouraged. I still think it's hard to lock in one of them being the week one starter. It's not that it can't happen. It's not that they can't get into OTAs here and mini camp and then ultimately training camp and preseason, and one of them blows you away and just is phenomenal. We want that. But I think you got to be kind of careful walking that line of like expectations for them. But I fully expect one of them, if not both of them, will get a chance to be involved and potentially start some games down the line here. I mean, you just got to look at the nature of, like, if you start Pickett, he's got a little bit of an injury history there. And Flacco, we all know, has not really been one to string double-digit starts together. So the door will be open. It's just a matter of when that door is open and inside of a tight time frame here, can either of them capitalize? Because the Browns could always punt and trade and get another first-round pick for the 27 draft or something. But I think they'd like to have some idea of what they have with these young guys to make an educated choice on what they do with the next pick. But I like swinging. You got to swing at quarterbacks, man. You got to keep them coming in. You got to keep trying to solve this thing with, figuring out different types of guys. And I mean, again, I'm an easy guy to please at this point because I was so tired of watching what they were doing with Deshaun. I can't stomach it.
I couldn't watch any of that. He's making
a bunch of Instagram posts and trying to be relevant, but I can't watch another snap of it, Josh. So I'm excited for something else.
I know. I saw the post of him like throwing at Berea the other day, and I was like, that's fine. I mean, that's cool, but you're not gonna play. Like you can't play anymore.
You can't run it back when your owner's already called it a swing and a miss. It's just, there's no way to do it.
No, you cannot. So, well, I tell you what, we got a few minutes left here. Why don't you just give me a quick, condensed rundown on the two backs? Because you keep mentioning them, and they're going to have a lot of impact on how this offense runs, what the quarterback's going to be responsible for. So Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, what do you see on the film? What do you like? What don't you like? How's this going to work for the Browns?
I mean, two guys who have played inside of the SEC and the Big Ten now with Judkins, who have seen a lot of a lot of football. Both offenses have asked their guys to block. So they come to the league with a well-rounded approach. Now, neither of them have been huge parts of running back passing game. So that is something but I don't think either of them, when they're in action catching the football, they don't look uncomfortable. It's just not something they're, sort of organically doing. I think it'll be interesting to see how they handle that aspect, but a couple of fun runners. I mean, Judkins is just so powerful. I mean, he runs with really good, I think his vision is strong. I think I'm interested to see a little bit of how he handles, the second level anticipation of moving players. That's the spot I'm curious, because that kind of unlocks another level as a runner, but he can anticipate run lanes. He can get narrow through them. He wears contact. He churns forward for yards. He'll run through you. He's got a stiff arm that is really lethal, and he can run around you. I think the long speed is probably never going to be very good, but he's still fast enough to create explosives, those 15-plus yard runs, and he'll have plenty of those. And he comes from diversity. There was a lot of, gap and downhill ISO concepts at Ole Miss. Chip Kelly does a little bit more variation. You'll get a little pin pull involved. You'll get some inside zone. You'll get some outside zone. So he's seen a lot of football and he's seen a lot of styles. And I just think he's a really good runner. Do I think he's going to be Nick Chubb good? That's hard to envision, because Nick was really special. Early career, Nick was one of one, but he can do a lot of things that the modern NFL asks. And I think he's going to be a really nice, like a Kareem Hunt plus type of runner, that I'm very interested to see if there's another level there, that I think he's got the talent to do. This guy ran for 1,400 yards as a true freshman in the SEC. The level of competition is not something he's afraid of, and he's built like God carved a running back. I mean, he's just he's really impressive.
And when you
specimen.
say Kareem Hunt plus, you're talking early career, right? Kareem Hunt when he was with the Chiefs leading the league.
Where he's really just so slippery, and he can turn tight corners, and he can run through you, but he can run away from you still. And even the early Kareem Cleveland tenure, where he was just always falling forward and always making 2 yards, 5 yards, or making 10 yards, 15 yards. So yeah, I think there's some of that to his game that I'm really fascinated with. And Sampson is lighter, not as much contact balance, but he played Tennessee's offense, which is unique in variation of like how they run that veer and shoot, very spread. But inside the tackle box, you got to be a patient runner inside of a lot of their gap concepts. There are more gap than zone. So you got to be very, very patient, very vision oriented to make one cut and get vertical. He's a 4-4 guy who can run away from you. He can make one cut and get to the corner. What I like about him is that he is like, it's somebody, the only person I see do this really well is Alvin Kamara. And I'm not saying he's Alvin Kamara. I see him more like a Tony Pollard type of player here than that. But the Kamara had this way of getting very narrow in tight spaces and sneaking through there. And like, how did he find that crease? There's a lot of that to his game, where he finds run lanes and he finds creases, and he can take a little bit of a hit at the end of a run, and he turns it into a bigger run than you expected it to be. And like, again, when you're in those tight spaces, like they're wide aligned, but they're narrow in their space in Tennessee's offense. So like their inside the tackle box was condensed, and he was able to really navigate that in a clean way. And I'm fascinated to watch him. He can pass block a little bit. I think he's a good athlete, and he works his butt off too, from everything you gather. So I think he's a great compliment. I kind of tried to trace this a little, Josh, with my study of, these players crossing into like when teams sort of like had two premier picks or players at the position recently. Like the Seahawks had those back-to-back years where they took Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. I think the thing that this could be the most closely mirrored to is Rachaad White had for Tampa a really strong season, his second season or his rookie season. I think it was his rookie year. And then they took Bucky Irving in the 4th round, who like, oh, this guy's really good, and we got to get him involved a ton. And it's like 220 carries for Judkins, like a little north of 110 for Sampson. And then last year they also had like 50 carries from that Sean Tucker, I think the Syracuse UDFA. That's like where I could see Jerome Ford landing in all of this. So I think they got two really good young running backs. Obviously we'll see when they strap on the pads, but And even if when one of them, Sampson or Judkins, you can't really get too far ahead of ourselves, aren't up to speed. They do have a baseline in Jerome that they know a little bit and has been around and is a nice fallback. But I think these two rookies, they believe in a lot and they really want to work these guys through their rookie contracts. So I expect them to be big parts of the offense this year. Health, given that the health stays in place.
Yeah, health is going to be the thing, man, because the running backs, the quarterbacks, I mean, the experiment this season could all go out the window if we lose our 2 tackles in week 1 and, or Joel goes down or, Judy's out or whatever. I mean, or on the defense. I mean, heck, you lose Denzel and Miles early on in the season. It's like, well, now our defense isn't as good and we're going to be coming from behind. And so that's always the caveat, right, for these NFL seasons, just health. And, 2023, we had terrible health situation and we overcame it. So that can happen as well. But I really appreciate you jumping on here with me and breaking down these rookies from the film perspective, because there's just so much narrative-based stuff that gets thrown out about each guy. And if you're not sitting there, you're not breaking down the film and seeing what these guys can actually contribute to an NFL offense, then like you said, you want to be able to speak on these things with your buddies and stuff in an intelligent way. You want to understand things and have some education on each guy and how they're going to fit. So I really appreciate all that.
Of course, man. Yeah, it's super time consuming, and I wouldn't expect everybody has
no, exactly.
Hours and hours to pour in to watch complete games of these guys. But yeah, I think you can learn a lot of who they are, a lot of where their college coaches trusted them to find answers, and see how the Browns are going to try to paint the vision of using them inside their structure. So that's what we tried to do, and it's up there. The Dillon film room is available for folks to check out if they want to and come over and look at it. And then Shedeur will be up this week as well. I'll try to talk through some of the parts they like about him and how he translates. So yeah, man. Yeah.
So that's brownsfilmbreakdown.com. Head over there. Just follow Jake and all the work that he's doing. Cause like he said, we don't all have time as fans, and you guys are out there working your jobs and you got families and everything. You don't have time to break down film on these. You just want to know what the deal is. Jake's got the deal. Jake breaks it down and he gives it to you in a format that is consumable and, delivers all the information that you need right to you. So go check him out at brownsfilmbreakdown.com. Jake, again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll have you on again, probably maybe this summer during the season just to talk more Brown stuff, because this is a ton of fun. And, and then also you guys can follow Jake at Jake_Burns18 on X as well, right?
Yeah, man. Okay. Of course. Appreciate you having me on. I love what you guys are doing. So anytime you want to chat ball, I'm here.
Love it. All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by Manly Bands. Guys, is your wedding band old, outdated, or just not the same taste you had when you were younger? Or hey, maybe you're about to get married, but you don't want to deal with the salespeople at the jewelry stores. Manly Bands has the best wedding bands made specifically for men. They have the classic, timeless gold and white gold styles, but they also have rings made from platinum, black zirconium, tungsten, titanium, even materials like meteorite and dinosaur bone. Yes, your wedding ring could be made from a dinosaur fossil. That is a real thing. They also have different ring collections, like their Jack Daniels rings made from actual Jack Daniels whiskey barrels. They also have Lord of the Rings and DC Comics band collections. Head over to manlybands.com/dogs and take advantage of their 30% off sale with free shipping. Plus, use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out for another 10% off your order. Now, every Manly band comes with a free silicone ring, and if you don't know your ring size, that's okay. You can order a free ring size chart from Manly Bands to make sure that you know exactly the right size before you order. And then if you get your ring and it doesn't fit just right, you can always return it or exchange it without any hassle. And I know this because I like my rings to be a little more loose, and the first band that I got was just a little too snug for the way I like to wear it, so I exchanged it, and the whole process was quick, easy, and I had my new ring in no time. And now, Manly Bands is even accessorizing men beyond just your wedding rings with their chain necklaces and chain bracelets made for men by men. And if you need groomsmen gifts or anything else, Manly Bands has you covered with their barware, whiskey glasses, flasks. They even have customized coasters and flight trays. So skip the jewelry stores, avoid the salespeople, and get a wedding band that was designed for you. manlybands.com/dogs to get 30% off, free shipping, plus get an extra 10% off when you use code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out.